Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Today's episode is all about the IFT-3 flight for the Starship Super Heavy from Boca Chica Starbase, Texas. We're going to talk about the mission that's going to be happening during this flight because it's impressive what SpaceX is going to be trying to accomplish with this one. As opposed to the IFT-2, hot staging was super impressive. They got that pretty much right. Now, we know the booster blew up and we know the ship blew up, but there are some things that they could be doing with the next flight that are absolutely necessary for the Artemis 3 mission, and these just came up a little bit ago. And I want to show you a few of these things happening. The human landing system activities, this is part of a slide from a NASA presentation the other day. They show here that several milestones completed, including a vacuum-optimized Raptor performance test that successfully confirmed the engine can be started in the extreme cold conditions resulting from extended time in space. Completed their second Starship flight test and are quickly moving towards their third, which will include a propellant transfer demonstration. That's what we're talking about today, the propellant transfer demonstration. Because what they need to do is they need to send Starships to orbit around the Earth, and then they have tankers of Starship propellant in orbit. In the Starship will mate with those tankers, and then they'll transfer propellant from the tanker to the ship, and then the ship will go to the moon or wherever else it's going to be going. Right. So let's take a look at this real quick, because I think this is an important thing that we have to talk about today. You see the Starships here, circling these right now, and we see the propellant tanker is it's almost twice as high as you can see. It's about not a perfectly straight line there, but it's pretty close. And as you can see, there's a little bit of it's a little bit different here. It's a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. And if we go back to this slide, completed the second Starship flight test, and then quickly towards the third, which will include a propellant transfer demonstration. Now, do they mean a full transfer? And do they have a propellant tanker ready to go at Starbase? And the answer to that is probably not. Okay, so more than likely, and this is actually being confirmed by a few sources now, that SpaceX will be doing a fluid transfer or a propellant transfer from something to something, from some tank to another tank while they're doing their IFT-3 flight. So they're going to get into space. They broke the Kármán line with the IFT-2 flight. So that means they're technically in space. And this is what this NASA tipping point agreement is that SpaceX signed a while ago. So right here, as you can see, SpaceX of Hawthorne, large-scale flight demonstration to transfer 10 metric tons of cryogenic propellant, specifically liquid oxygen, between tanks on a Starship vehicle. SpaceX will collaborate with Glenn and Marshall. Now, these are tipping point selections for NASA for the Artemis program. So 10 metric tons of cryogenic propellant between tanks on a Starship vehicle. So not only are we going to see a transfer of Starship between a tanker, the big propellant tanker in orbit at some point, but this next flight, the IFT-3 flight, is going to be transferring propellant from one tank to another tank while it's flying. Now, this is incredible, and these things have been confirmed a few times on social media. And one of the people that confirmed this was Michael Sheets, of course, space reporter. Everybody knows Michael Sheets. Michael Sheets is the man, and NBC guy. So he has SpaceX's third space flight will include a propellant transfer, and then he reached out to NASA in the later tweet, and we'll talk about that too. Hawkins didn't address the third Starship test flight's plans in her remarks, so I've reached out to NASA and SpaceX to clarify what propellant transfer demonstration means in this context. So we already know that that SpaceX and NASA had the tipping point consideration, and then we're going to take a look at the update from Michael Sheets. NASA confirms a Starship propellant transfer demonstration could happen as soon as the third test of the SpaceX rocket, although the plan is subject to change. And that's what's important here. The subject to change always happens with spaceflight, because things might not line up properly for the IFT-3 flight They may not be ready for it. They may not have the right craft properly prepared for this flight, for the propellant demonstration, the transfer demonstration. So we're going to see in the near future if this is actually a thing. We're going to have to wait for SpaceX to come out and say that the propellant transfer is going to be happening with the IFT-3 flight. Now, this tipping point agreement, let's take another quick look at this. Cryogenic, 10 tons of cryogenic propellant. I know I'm behind, the stuff is behind me, but I'll tell you what it says. 10 metric tons of cryogenic propellant, specifically liquid oxygen, between tanks on a Starship vehicle. So that means they're not going to be transferring it to the propellant tanker, because the tanker is a whole different beast. That's basically a Starship and a half, but full of propellant that they have to shoot up into orbit. And have we already seen sort of a mock-up of this? I'm not sure yet, but we'll get into that a little bit, because that's a fun one to think about too. Now, another thing that's interesting, another fun thing to think about for the IFT-3 flight, Toby Lee, the internal date for IFT-3 is scheduled for Christmas Day, but that's almost guaranteed to slip. Okay, so they're still working on the pad. They're still working on Starbase itself. They're still working on the launch area of Starbase. And they have 20 days to get this right, to get all the propellant loading, all the static fires done, all the stacking. They have to stack, unstack, restack, do fit checks, things like that in order for them to actually fly this. Could they do that in 3 weeks? History has shown that they can't really move that fast. And that seems like a horrible thing to say, that SpaceX can't move really fast, because they're moving faster than everybody else, ever. Like literally ever. They're the fastest spaceflight company ever. But can they do this in 3 weeks? Well, we've seen them static fire numerous times. It takes a few days to do a static fire. The static fire itself is only a couple seconds, like a quick burst. They have to move the booster and the ship down to the flight area, and then they have to lift the booster onto the pad or onto the mount, and that takes about a day, right? So then they have to do static fires. They have to do propellant field tests. They have to check out systems. So those usually take the system checkouts usually take another day. Propellant field tests usually take 3 or 4 days altogether. So the booster itself, 5-6 days. So they have to do the same thing with the ship, 5-6 days, about a week each. So there's 2 weeks. Then they have to do stacking. They have to move things around. They have to make sure that everything works properly when it's stacked. A couple days there. And then they have to do, propellant load in the stacked area. They have to get certification from the FAA as well, and that may take a while. So they may be able to stack it. They may be able to stack it by Christmas Day, but usually in anything tech, I've worked in tech for 15 years, and engineering. I've been around engineers my whole life. I know how this works. Usually, when they set an internal date, this is for people to aspire to. So the internal date, Christmas Day, this is something for the engineers and the people at Starbase to aspire to get done, because everyone's going on break. IFT-3 is scheduled for Christmas Day. It's almost guaranteed to slip. Yeah, Toby Lee, you're right. It's almost guaranteed to slip, but the internal dates are to push people forward so they can continue working as hard as they can and work those long extra hours so they can get everything done before they go home for Christmas break. They want to get everything as good as possible, as done as possible, because they do have a Christmas break at Starbase. They do have Christmas breaks and, holiday breaks for people at SpaceX. So if they know there's not going to be a big team there for a week, maybe some people will be taking vacations for a week or a week and a half, and they're not going to have the full staff of people there. So there's a possibility they're just pushing this through so that they get as much work done before the break as possible. So more than likely, IFT-3 will slip past past Christmas. Unfortunately for us, we probably, how about tell me in the comments, do you think it's possible? Tell me in the comments, because I don't know, man. It seems like it might be possible if they get everything absolutely perfectly done right now. Like, have to do it right now. Like, literally, they have to start stacking this thing like as soon as possible. But is it possible? And did we already see a propellant tanker test? Could this be the article that could be the propellant tanker test model? The Ship 26. They did a static fire on it. Could this be IFT-3? Because they have to get the propellant transfer like perfectly done. They have to do it perfect in the first few flights of it in order for it to function properly for the future of SpaceX and for Artemis and etc. So this is why would they static fire this if they're not going to use it in the future, unless they were doing some new plumbing for the next Raptor engines or something like that. There's anything is possible. Anything is possible here. So the IFT-3 flight, it's going to transfer propellant in the ship itself. So there's going to be a tanker to tanker or a tank to tank transfer, and Ship 26 possibly going to be a in orbit propellant transfer vehicle, or it could have just been a demonstration test to check out flow, or anything's possible with this thing. So could this be IFT-3? Possibly too. Could they be flying IFT-3? And then there's some setback, or there's some weird stuff with that too, if you think about it, because this doesn't have any wings. It doesn't have any heat shield. It doesn't have anything that the other ships that have already flown have or have been tested. Ship 24/7 even had all those things, had the heat shield and the wings and everything. But this has nothing. This is a bare fuselage. It's just a nose cone and a tube, in the internals, of course, in the engines. But could this be the IFT-3 flight? And I've been thinking about that a little bit, because it just has to demonstrate the in-orbit propellant transfer. And if they don't really care like how it functions after that, then why not just send something up that's just has tanks in it? And they get that job done. It doesn't have to land perfectly. It can burn up. You could belly smack her in the off the coast of Kauai like anything else could. And it doesn't need a heat shield. It doesn't really, does it need wings if it's being propelled through space? Not at that point. But when it comes back in, it can't really guide itself as well without the wings. So there's a slight possibility that this could be some sort of transfer protocol, and they just shoot it up there and hope. They can't really. They can steer it with the Raptor engines, but not as well with wings. Not as well as with wings. So there's a possibility, slight possibility. I'm going to give it a 2% possibility that this thing could be the propellant transfer ship. But let me know what you think in the comments, because I want to hear some ideas from some people. Because without any way to steer this thing other than the Raptor engines, it might be too dangerous at this point, because this is totally a test article. Like, Starship is still a test article. It's still a test ship. So this might be a little bit too much at this point, without the wings of the heat shield or anything like that. Plus, they have to demonstrate that all the other things are going to work. So they have to make sure that everything works and that the propellant tanks don't blow up. And there's only one of these. And there's a bunch of there's 4 other ships, that are at Starbase right now that are raring to go until the next Raptor engines are installed on the next ship. So we're going to see, hopefully by, I'm going to guess February, that they're going to get this thing ready, because they're going to work really fast until December 25th. And I've been down there during Christmas. It gets dead. There's barely anybody there for about a week. So they're going to lose about a week's worth of time. And, just side of the road broadcasting when I was down there, I barely saw anybody else. The only other people that I really saw there were security guards and Jessica Kirsch and a couple other people would like wander through, but there was never any real big presence of Starship facility operators or engineers or anybody working on the ships themselves. So that happened last year too. So if history does repeat itself, there's a possibility that, this like Starbase basically shuts down for a week and a half. So they're going to push hard through December. And then the end of December, they're going to take a week to reconfigure, get everybody ready for the new year. And then they're going to push hard to get IFT-3 off the ground. They would really love to get it done by the end of this year, though, because they have 5 flights per year, according to their current contract. And if they can get a third one off by the end of the year, they could possibly deter another or they could get 3 done out of the 5, and then they restart on January 1st with 5 more. So, and they can always, if they need it, they can get more. So that might not even be an issue going forward. So it could be a small thing that they just have to reapply for, and they're probably already in the process of that. So they have to prove this out, and then we'll see. That's pretty much it. Like, we're going to see what happens, but I don't see a flight happening by the end of this year. Also, there's one other really cool thing that I want to show you. Jared Isaacman. So the Polaris Dawn mission commander, and this is for the Hubble Space Telescope. And we're all familiar with the Hubble Space Telescope. Amazing, like so much cool stuff from the Hubble. NASA is working to resume science operations of the Hubble Space Telescope after it entered safe mode November 23rd due to an ongoing gyroscope issue. Hubble's instruments are stable and the telescope is in good health. So everything's working properly on Hubble. The gyroscopes went down. So they had to take this thing completely offline because the gyroscopes. This thing is old. Hubble's old, decades old. And then Jared Isaacman says, "Put us in, coach." Okay, so that's so if you're not familiar with the Polaris program is using SpaceX technology, Falcon 9 rockets, and Crew Dragons to basically go to orbit, for regular people to go to orbit. A very, very cool team of people to go to orbit. And they're going to be doing some specific demonstrations to show that human spaceflight for regular people and discovery missions and science missions for regular people is possible. So Jared says, "Put us in, coach." They've been training for Polaris since they announced it, and they're doing flights, they're doing parachuting, they're doing everything that like a NASA astronaut would do. But they're like, I wouldn't say they're normal people. I would say they're exceptional people that are doing exceptional things, but they aren't NASA astronauts. They're not trained by NASA. They didn't have to go through decades of training in the Air Force or the Marines or something like that in order to get to this position. Jared is a pilot, but the other thing is, you can go through training, and that's what they're doing here. They're going through training to do these incredible missions, to do things like this. And there was a couple more comments that were impressive here. Do you think it would be best to repair Hubble or recover or preserve with Starship? Both can eventually be done, said Jared. So Hubble repairs. We know that Hubble's been repaired a few times. There's use cases for Hubble, of course. So much science has been done with Hubble. We've discovered so many things, and we can continue to discover things. Both can eventually be done. Now, STS-125 said, "Problem is, Hubble needs more than just a boost. It needs repairs. How do you expect to do this without the shuttle capabilities? It was hard work then with the best, only vehicle capable of such work." Now, Jared said replacement computers and gyros are not the size of refrigerators anymore. STS-125 says, "I get that. I'm thinking more about how do you plan to get up to the body of Hubble and do the work with the resources, especially the Canadarm." Or without the resources, is what they wanted to say, without the resources, especially the Canadarm. Because basically the space shuttle would fly up, open up its hatch, and people would, transfer from the shuttle to the telescope, via the ship. But now Jared said a study has already been done with this. So all good. Like Jared's like, we can do it. Let's just go. Like, NASA, please just let us go up there. Why aren't you letting us go up there? I don't know what the deal is, but why aren't you just letting us do this? And, Jared is a exceptional human being. He's done so many wonderful things, and he is a proponent of human spaceflight, continues to work hard to kind of lay the foundation for future spaceflight. I keep calling them regular people or normal people, but they are exceptional people doing this right now. But eventually, decades down the line, everybody will be able to go to space, which is insane to think about, because these are things that we thought about and people have thought about since the dawn of the space age and since the dawn of the Wright brothers. Like, how can we get to the moon? And they've been thinking about this for hundreds or thousands of years. Like, how do we get up there? This is the foundation. This is the legwork that needed to be done. Jared and his teams will be basically go down in history as some of the first people to do this, other than through a government, because governments have deep pockets and they also have the resources to hire people that will get these jobs done. Engineers, scientists, etc. They can get these jobs done. Now we have for-profit companies like SpaceX, and we also have billionaires like Jared, who's like, I want to do this cool stuff. Can we work together? I got all this money. Like, yeah, sure. I do like so much wonderful things through St. Jude and helping people out, but Shift 4 payments, things like that. Like his companies make bazillions of dollars. Jared is like, I'm an extreme kind of person. I would like to go to space, please. SpaceX, take my money. The meme, take my money. And yeah, so it's like, that's what he did to SpaceX. He's like, I want to do these cool things. How can we do this rationally and get these jobs done? Because I want to be the guy, and it takes a certain kind of person to do that. And Jared is that person. So, yeah, I think this is possible. I think it's just really cool. It's just a cool little side thing that we had to talk about today. I thought it was really neat. But there's like one other thing that I want to tell you about, because I know if you went this far along this rant that I've been going on today, SpaceX has been talking about having like 8 to 10 propellant transfer vehicles on their ship to transfer to the tanker, from the tanker to the ship. And NASA just came through with a high teens number. Hawkins estimated high teens is driven by concerns over propellant loss, known as boil-off at the depot. So these depots, high teens. So with SpaceX and Elon were saying like 8, and then they're saying high teens. So it just basically doubles it, like, okay, high teens. They're going to send 8, or they're going to send 15 tankers, boil off, because basically the sun is beating down on these things and they're not complete. Like, the molecules in the propellant leak out after a while, and it just, like, what can you do, right? Like, it's just physics. That's how it works. So boil off happens unless SpaceX can launch these ships immediately to, they might be able to send these like 8 tankers up in the same 48 hours. And if that's the case, 1 or 2 from the Cape, and then 1 or 2 from Texas, 1 or 2 from the Cape, 1 or 2 from back and forth, get 8 to 10 up there, and then send the ship up. That's going to be incredible. Is that possible? By Artemis 3, now they're kind of pushing back Artemis 3 to 2027 now, which is, it's kind of concerning, but also it's space flight. And the initial timeframes for this were ridiculous to begin with. Everybody knew this in the spaceflight industry, that the timeframes for this were ridiculous. Like, we're not going to get, Artemis 3 to the moon by 2024. It's a ridiculous timeline. And the idea was just to put it out there. And then, of course, it's NASA and it's the government. So you can kind of push back a little bit and you can get the timeframes that you need. But if the International Astronomical Congress didn't specify a number, only mentioned the need for multiple launches. Hawkins estimated high teens. Achieving the Artemis schedule and managing fuel loss requires rapid, successive launches. These will occur from Boca Chica, Texas, and Kennedy Space Center at 39A on the 6-day rotation. So boom, 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 boom. It's going to be insane. And we also have a website. So if you want to learn about this stuff, spacenewspod.com. Go check out SpaceX news. There's numerous other things you can do here. SpaceX, NASA spaceflight. You can learn about a lot of Starship stuff. So yeah, please go check out spacenewspod.com. And also, if you get a second, our sponsor is starshipshirts.com. They help us out, and we can get you Starship-based shirts, merch, hats, stuff like that. Good prices, fast shipping, and ships worldwide. So go check that out, starshipshirts.com as well. So SpaceX, NASA, and spaceflight at spacenewspod.com. I just relaunched this last week. So just take a look around. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the tanker transfer protocols. And when do you think any of this is going to happen? Is the tanker transfer going to happen in IFT-3? When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen before December 25th? It's going to be close. So if you like to read, there you go, spacenewspod.com. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. I really do appreciate you. And I want to say thank you again to everybody who is a member of the channel. I cannot do this without you. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/spacenewspod. And also catch us on X at Space News Pod, and on Facebook too, Space News Pod. I don't really use Facebook as much, but it's there. So, and we also have Twitch at Space News Pod. And I think that's it for now. So take care, everybody. And please, take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next episode. Okay, there is a goodbye, thank you thing right here. Join the flight crew right over there. You can join it. You can subscribe to the show. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you're thinking, and then become part of the flight crew. And that's about it. All right, bye-bye, everybody.